Today, we're going to do something that deals a little bit with instruction, but it also deals with adaptability. So, Kay and Kathy, both of you have a regular class. You both teach on Zoom about the same amount. So which one of you wants to go? I was gonna put Ruth first, but she's not here.
You're gonna put Ruth first, but okay.
Because she has the most Zoom experience, right? She has the most experience teaching on Zoom of all.
Yeah, definitely.
Which one of you wants to go?
Kay does.
Okay. So you're going to get 5 minutes. Well, you're going to have a 10-minute spot here. But at 5 minutes, I'm going to switch things up a little bit for you. To start, you're just going to teach a concept that you haven't seen in another class. Just make one up right now.
Oh my gosh.
Suddenly, I might have to go in about 5 minutes.
Probably a good thing, Andrew. You might be happy. Okay, concept that I've never seen.
Not from another class. Don't mimic somebody else's class. Come up with your own concept. And this is the adaptability, like your own spot. Find something.
Okay, I'm kidding. All right, so concept, let's see. Trying to not do something anybody else has done. That's a bit of a challenge. My big one always is balance. So if I look at balance and I try to think of how I would probably explain that a little bit. One thing I have done before, but you don't want anything I've done before either, right?
Correct.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So, big thing I've been struggling with a little bit off and on lately is dizziness. Okay. So, when I get dizzy, basically the whole room is moving around, right? So, you're trying to find your own center in that movement. So, when we're standing centered or regularly, we feel okay, right? There's no unbalance anywhere. But basically when I'm dizzy, I feel like I'm like this. So try this. Actually stand on one foot a little bit sideways. This is the feeling I get when I'm really dizzy, like I'm ready to fall. Okay. I'm saved by the phone.
Sorry.
That's okay. So the issue with this is, how do I find my balance basically and not feel totally out of whack, right? Be okay and not fall over. Or if I do fall over, can I be okay with it? So the question would be, if I'm in this position, can I let myself go? Can I just fall? Okay. I gotta take my glasses off. So, because from here I'll fall very controlled, right? So this would be a very controlled way to fall. If I'm in this position, I can't do that. I only have one point of contact on the floor, but yet I'm really dizzy, right? So what happens when I fall? Can I do that safely? Can I just let myself go? And I was basically in the cat's bedroom upstairs. It was dark and I felt like I was doing somersaults. It was a really scary feeling. So can I be like this and just come down into a roll? And that being not just from the side, it could be like this I'm feeling, right? Can I do that? And be okay with it. Let it be, right? And part of that is,
3 minutes.
you know, what?
3 minutes.
Okay. So part of that is, I don't want to crash onto one body part, right? If I'm completely off balance, do I just crumple to the floor and do it more softly versus feel like I'm going to cartwheel? If I cartwheel and go down, can I still go softly? And what does that feel like? Because this is kind of how I feel a lot of the time. And doing this actually removes that fear of falling in the unknown, in the dark, and not knowing what's going to happen. Can I practice that? And we take a Kimmy all the time, right? So we're always doing this, but on a mat. We think we're protected. We're in a safe environment, right? But if you're outdoors, whatever, can you just be completely off balance and be safe? I always have this fear when I'm on my horse because I have jumped off of him and it was very painful and I got a concussion. Can I safely now do this? And I think I can, so it's kind of fun to play with that and experiment. Okay.
A minute.
A minute. Okay. I would ask that you guys tell me your thoughts on this in the last minute.
That actually happened to me.
Yeah.
I was walking through the woods with the dog. I slipped on ice and I started falling on my elbow.
Uh-huh.
And I knew I didn't want to do that. I actually shifted my weight over and landed on the other hip.
Nice.
It just happened.
Good. Good. Yeah, it just came to me when I was super dizzy and I sort of like that uncontrolled situation, right?
Yeah.
You don't have control over it. But fear comes into your body first.
Yes.
Is it normal that when I'm just about to lose my balance, almost everything turns into a roll, whether it be a forward or a backward roll?
Well, you hope so, right? Normal people, that the fear is that when they're like this, they're going to crash, break something, you know, especially older people, they're going to break a hip, break an arm. So the idea is, how can we soften that and become more fluid and adaptable to the situation, whether we have control of it or not?
All right. Now for the adaptability part. The people you're teaching have bad knees,
Okay.
and you're teaching the same thing. Adjusting.
Okay. So the problem with somebody with bad knees, you're dizzy and you find yourself in this situation.
You can't hold yourself in that situation.
You can't, right? So you're going to fall.
But
And you don't want to fall on the cat.
if you can't get to that situation. If your knees are bad and hurt, you can't get to this leaning situation.
Okay. So.
Or a bad hip, whichever way you want to look at it.
Or the what?
Or a bad hip, which means I can't go and turn my hip.
Okay, that's where it gets a little trickier because if I'm going from the premise of being dizzy and everything and doing that, then you don't have control of that, right? So the question would be, if you get yourself in a bad situation, you have bad knees or a bad hip, and you cannot do that, what would be your first reaction? Would it be you're off balance, you're gonna fall, right? You know you're gonna fall. So then you're going to have to rely on different parts of your body. And part of it would be maybe potentially if you tighten your thighs, can you get more control to protect your knees? So if I tighten my thighs, can I go down without hurting my knees? Just try that. You do tend to hit your hip as you go down. So taking the tension into a different part of your body and not putting pressure on your knees. Is that possible? It's a little tricky. Of course, getting up is always a challenge. If you were to just practice rolling with problems with knees and hips, I would go back to something I've talked about before, where you use your counterbalancing of your body. However, in an uncontrolled situation, you don't get to do that, right? So
how do you create this uncontrolled situation, right? You have your uncontrolled situation. That's how you create it normally with someone who can't do that. Their hips don't do that. Their knees don't do that.
So what you would have to do is have a prop, maybe. Something you can actually get to and alleviate the pressure that you might have on that. So I would try with a chair, back of a chair or something. Can you hold on to that? And can you lift your leg? And does that affect any pains in your knees? Because you don't want to have any pain in your knee if that happens.
Does that give you
This,
the same feeling of unbalance that you're trying to go for? You see what I'm getting at?
yeah, I know. I'm trying to think.
Okay.
I'm thinking somebody with bad knees, this would be a precarious position because they can't necessarily just lift off, right? They have to have this hand here.
But does it feel, because you're talking about this feeling of you're about to fall. If you're leaning on something, you have that same feeling. I don't know. I'm asking you a question.
Yeah. I don't know. Kathy, you got bad knees?
I have, yeah, I think what came to me was shifting my weight. I was falling on my left side and I knew I didn't want to shatter my elbow. So I shifted my weight to the other side and pulled that leg out from under me. So I didn't need my knee.
Right, so that's how you adjust it, but how do you get to this feeling of I'm about to fall?
Yeah. So,
I was slipping.
Right, but I mean right now.
Oh,
Because
how would I do it now? Gotcha. Okay.
Jay was trying to do it this way, where you lose your balance, which I'm guessing if your hips have difficulty moving, that's a problem. If your knees or legs can't support your weight, that's a problem. So how do you adapt to that?
I would say probably for someone to not have hip or knee problem, but still feel like they're losing their weight, it might be a forward potential.
Okay.
Or backward. Now that'll go on the knees though. That affects the knees more, I can tell right now.
Yep.
So you'd have to probably try it in a forward way. You're gonna fall on the ground. What are you gonna do? You're on your toes, right? Can you drop? And can you squat at all? If your knees hurt, probably not. But if you're going forward, how do you break that fall?
You
You don't want to do it with just your arms.
you don't want to do it with your wrists. You want to do it from the elbow like this.
Yeah.
And you want to bend the elbow.
It'd
Yes.
probably be that judo drop
Right.
where you're falling forward and you
Well, and for someone with bad knees, Let me see if I can angle my camera here. For someone with bad knees, it might even help to start on your knees.
Okay. Good one. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to do something like that, yes, you want to get used to losing your balance and controlling yourself while you're losing your balance. If I can't do it from here because I have bad knees, so I can't bend them down, start already down. This might be easier. Again, it depends on which problem with your knees you're having. So the thing is for each person to adjust it depending on their individual problem. We all know bending backwards is not good for your knees. That's going to be hard for almost anybody. Some people have bad enough knees, they can't even go onto their knees. This would be out for them as well. What I would think, and this is just an idea, see if I can get a good angle here. This might work. Yeah. If I have bad enough knees, I know you can't see this too well. I'll do the best I can. I'm just going to lean forward onto a wall. So I'm not even leaning too far. If my knees are truly bad, I just get closer to the wall, and then I'm only leaning in about 3 or 4 inches. But I'm mimicking the feeling of losing my balance and cushioning my body with the elbows, not with the wrists themselves. So it just depends on how bad the condition is, and each person can adjust for that condition depending on how bad their individual knees happen to be. If I wanted to do it up against a wall, I can do it when I'm 3 feet away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you mimic the losing of balance in accordance with the severity of their own condition, and they can adjust it depending on their condition and do a different exercise accordingly. That's my idea. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take that. I just had an idea while I heard you guys talking.
Cool.
So but there's no one way to practice losing your balance. This is great for someone who's healthy, you know, and then when they're healthy, as they lose their balance further and further and further, then they can do what they need to do. But for someone who's not as healthy, I have to adjust. Now I can do this from here. Great. If I'm truly healthy, I'm not good enough to go backwards. That's bad. But I can go back and drop.
Or you could shift to one side.
Exactly. Again, as long as my individual body parts can take that shift to the side, yes, practice that. If not, adjust adjust losing your balance to that side and change your body around it.
If I remember right, also when I shifted to the other side, to the other hip, I also slapped with my arm flat.
Did that work if you have a bad shoulder, Kathy? I can't remember.
No, my shoulder had already been fixed by then.
Oh, okay. Well, please don't hurt it again.
I don't think I could.
But
not with.
But that was my thought. So actually, think of it as a spectrum. Got a nice little tiny fall. Got a much bigger fall. You know, whatever it is, a foot or two. You work your way up, depending on the severity of my knee problem, whatever it might be. To even, I'm not going to do it standing, but you get the idea. All the way to K's. See what I mean? So there's just different levels, depending on the severity of the issue, which body part has the issue, and to their individual preference as to how to practice it.
And which body parts are okay.
Yes, exactly. Knees, ankles, hips, shoulders, back, neck. I mean, we've seen them all.
Yeah.
And so people just have to adjust how they use each exercise in light of their own individual body parts, in light of their individual severity. But as long as they can still mimic the losing of balance, adjusting the body, and recovering their balance.
Cool.
Make sense? And C.
So now I'll do the next part, which is what you guys are going to be doing to a degree. So we have their knees or hips are injured. You want to work on balance, and I want to move it past what Kay did. So the next step for me is I lose my balance while sitting flat, because it's pretty much, most people can do this. And I lower myself to the ground as I fall, feeling the different amounts of balance change. You feel your balance go a little, and you curve your body, try and let muscle hit the ground. And just slowly bring yourself to the ground. Your feet build up control. You can even go forward. Go back, you go to the sides. And this will give you the feeling of losing your balance. The feeling of slowly being able to recover it. And as you try and hit muscle, hopefully a good reaction. I am not a complete bastard. Okay, you get to choose what the limitation is now. But you have to unmute if you're going to do that.
Hey, sorry.
Additional or different?
Either way.
Okay, limitation on this one. So you're slowly lowering yourself to the ground. And the limitation could be still dizziness, having a problem of actually lowering yourself to the ground and shifting and being dizzy. What do you do?
I need to know what that actually means.
Okay.
Like, what is dizziness stop? What does it change? Because I don't know.
Okay, yeah, no, that would be a tough one. So more of a physical limitation. Problems with neck issues. So pains in your neck. Because lots of times when we tend to do this, it puts a lot of strain for some people if they're not using core. I shouldn't have told you that, but anyway, you know that.
Okay. So we're sitting here. The neck's a problem. I place my hand gently on it, and cushion it, because I lose my balance. That ties my lats and my arm together, so I can't use my neck as much. Whichever way is going to go down.
Yeah, that's good.
So just the weight of your own arm should be enough to hold your neck in place. No extra muscle. And you should still be able to feel the loss of balance in an attempt to lower yourself slowly and controlled. Use your other arm, you use your other arm. Doesn't really matter. You're trying to find a way for your body to be soft as it falls. It won't look like a regular roll, but that doesn't matter. It's about protecting your body. Yep. So, Kathy, you're going to be up next. We're removing the restrictions, right? All the limitations are now gone. The only thing is the concept was lowering yourself down to the fall. And balance, like losing your balance. So what is the next step to move to?
Using the same losing your balance concept?
So there's the losing your balance and then the lowering yourself to the ground control.
Oh, okay.
I'll do those together, plus something else now.
If you're if you have one knee or one hip that's out, that's a problem. If you can sit on the other hip and do like a teddy bear roll.
So we were lowering, just like in general lowering. Now you're going to lower onto one side of the hip, right?
Onto one side, yeah.
Yeah.
So this hip and knee are bad, and so lowering, and like using your arm to roll.
Okay.
I'm just wondering though if you're dizzy. We limited dizzy, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought we took that away.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry.
I mean, that was, the dizzying was the reason why Jay started this, but we weren't really dizziness.
So one hip, one knee. Lower the other side. Put the other arm down like a roll. Then the trouble is getting up.
Well, that's a problem whether I have a good or bad body part anyway.
I mean, you still have 2 minutes, so if you want to tackle getting up, up to you.
Okay. Something I've worked on but I haven't taught yet is I use the good knee, and then I have a feeling like I'm a puppet and something is pulling me up through the spine.
Okay.
And that wasn't so good, but I've been able to get up. Because I've had trouble with that knee, of course. But even the bad knee, if I put the bad knee up, bend the toes on the other foot, and then just use the muscles to bring myself up. The muscles through the front, through my back. Yes. That's been an issue for me coming up from Seiza.
Right,
I'm not good at this one either. I tend to push back. He pushes straight.
So now, the wrench in the monkey wrench or whatever. You have your lowering down, you shift your hip, and you also have the getting up. Use a broken to work on this. I probably got somewhere. There we go.
Oh, that helps.
So basically, you have this idea that you want to work on, but it's a weapons class, so how do you adapt to that?
For the going down or just the going up?
If you can do both, great. If just one, then just one. It's up to you.
Okay, let's start with going up.
Okay.
Down in Seiza. And I guess I'm using Ikeda Sensei's idea of rowing to some point. Uh-oh. Yeah, like that. Have to get my balance. Using my arms from the triceps instead of my hands. I'm using my knees differently than I thought I would.
Okay.
To go down anyway.
What are you doing different?
I'm lifting from my core.
Okay.
At what point are you engaging your core there, Kathy? At what point in the steps?
Pretty much from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm lifting. Because I can't depend on my knee to do it. And then I start using the arms. Whew.
I'll grab the next step. From this. There we go. All right, so you're throwing it out. No, stand up. What I'm going to try and do is take my core, same idea. I'm going to throw it upward, basically throwing the broken upward, my whole body upward.
Right.
Make it lighter a little bit. Basically shift my weight. Side, right, body goes back a little in order. So it's not as much over the knee it needs to move. You really want, for me, it's not going to be a lift, it's a throw. Just throw it up.
Oh, okay.
So you're almost throwing your core up and back.
Correct, in that way. So it goes out the sword a little bit, and I'm basically riding this. And then on the way down, watch what happens. Just go upward, and now it goes the other direction,
Yeah, down.
and brings me down. All right. And down.
Am I perceiving it correctly, Gary, that you're catching that momentum of the core, but you don't want, as part of that wave, you don't want your upper body to bend backwards. I'm exaggerating big time here. My point is, you catch the wave of that core, but you don't allow your upper body to throw itself backwards too far. Is that correct?
You don't, when you're actually doing it, you don't throw yourself backwards too much, but if I exaggerate, I do, right?
Yeah, okay,
Basically,
yes.
that way it kicks my leg out and everything.
Yeah.
But if I go too far back, it's hard to stand because I put all the weight on the knee again. So instead, my body moves in under it.
Yeah, so it's almost like the core fires. It's almost like the ball gets moving, and then the body follows it, not necessarily rides it all the way back.
Correct.
Gotcha, I get it.
It's the angle, basically. So I can throw myself that way, or I can throw myself that way.
I see, okay.
Ah,
So it's almost like throwing your core up, not even necessarily waving backwards.
Correct.
Gotcha.
There's a little forward, but not a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Back and forth, not a lot. And then the down is just the opposite, right? So I'm going up. So this cuts and it pulls the leg back. Nothing down on after that. Right, it's not the straight up down. There's this curve, which makes it easy.
yeah. Maybe one way to think about it, I was thinking about this before, is if you think there's a string attached between the bottom of your boken to the front of your body and to the back. And what you're doing, you are pulling the back, which is the front, underneath. So you're lifting the back and the front up, and when you're coming down, you're actually putting it on top. So it's not so much a pendulum as it is kind of going up this way and a drop up this way.
Yeah, I would think of it more as a bar so that I can push it upward instead of pulling it with my arms. Because if it's a string, I have to pull it with my arms.
Right, so forget the string analogy. It's more that it's a connection, and my favorite word, not.
And as this pushes forward, your leg moves out. If I really, really exaggerate it.
Well, because the body is going forward. If the leg doesn't come out, you'd fall forward. You'd literally just fall flat.
But
So
it
as your
also,
body goes forward, your leg has to come out.
it also lightens your leg so you can move it.
Right.
Oh, basically. And then you change the angle so it's not so much forward and just up.
More up.
I get it.
Right. So you get to choose the limitation, Kathy. Or the change. Like I changed yours to broken, right?
What I'm finding, and this is a problem for me. I can't bend this knee as much my right knee as much as I can the left knee.
Okay. So that's in Seiza, it doesn't bend completely flat, right?
Right. And even when I was coming up, it's stable at this position. So I can come up on my right side. I can't on my left.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something anybody else can duplicate though.
Could you take like one step away from the camera so I can see the knee position? Okay. Yeah, just so I can see where the knee can go, like the limitation on it.
Oh, okay. So can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. Okay. If I'm down in full Seiza.
Okay.
If I want to bring this knee up, I can't bring it straight up. I have to bring it to the side.
Okay. I think I get it. Let me switch the spotlight again. Okay. So there's a limitation on this leg from coming straight upward.
Correct. It has to come out to the side.
So what we're going to do is we're going to basically throw off to the side. This way. And then cut back.
Ah, how about that?
And since it's not actually a problem, like we're going to do it on both sides. Because there's no reason not to learn it on both sides, right? You can stand. And then again, when you cut down, you're falling onto the leg a little. It misses a little out because of this angle. And then it comes up. And this should allow you to work on the same idea of throwing your core upward. It's just off to the side. Yeah. Oh, it becomes a bit of a stretch.
I lose my balance on that side.
On which side?
The right side. The new knee side.
Where do you lose your balance? Okay.
Once I get that knee up, it's very stable. I think that piece of metal in there stabilizes it.
So can you throw it more, even more to the side, right? So it's even a wider stretch. So that way you can get to 90 easier, hopefully.
Not yet.
The way, like the left hand leg, sit on that foot.
Yeah.
So you're even leaning a little bit on it, right?
I think I'd be able to do it after a while.
Okay. There you go. And now we
That
move.
helps. Thank you.
Now we move to Andrew. That's not right. So you don't have to do getting up and getting down from Seiza. But the idea of throwing the core is basically what it turned into.
Sorry, say that again.
But the idea of throwing your core to get up, you have that. You have the lowering yourself down to the ground. You have your losing your balance. In this progression, what's the next step?
I wasn't even thinking about the next step of this progression, I guess. But if we're talking about that one, so we're talking about, sorry, the progression again of losing your balance.
So yeah, we've lost our balance and we fell.
Yep.
We lost our balance and we lowered ourselves to the ground.
Mhm.
We then shifted to one leg. Roll. We then started using the bulkhead to help ourselves get back up from that, which was throwing my core to pick myself up. That's our progression so far. What would be the next step? We can use the bulkhead or not. It's up to you.
Well, I mean, guess I'm at a loss simply because we have lost our balance, we've fallen, we've gotten back up, we've lowered ourselves back down. With or without the Boken, we've done that so far. So
But it's the idea that we're trying to progress, right? It's the idea we're trying to progress. And this idea has come off balance to controlling, to falling, to controlling that fall, to shifting the fall to go down, to using our core to move ourselves through it.
you've described what we've done, but
Where to go from here?
this is why I'm struggling.
And I mean, that's the point of this, is the adaptability to try and immediately come up with another step, which we can then use in pretty much everything. So Kelvin and Ruth, I'll catch you guys up in what we're doing. Basically, we're working on adaptability, but we're doing new instruction. And this we can use in everything. So it started out with Kay coming up with a unique idea that she has not worked on or seen in other classes. I then threw a monkey wrench into it, basically adding a limitation. Their knees were injured or their hip were injured, and how do you still do this? And then I took the next chunk, where I added on to what she was working on. So we moved forward a little bit. I Kay put a restriction on that, and we modified it for that. Then Kathy built on that. I added a restriction. She modified. The restriction was now we're doing Boken, and we moved forward. And then I took the next step of how do we push that even further. And the idea is, even when we're training, you have uke, nage, etc. Things are occurring, and how do you add on or adapt what's occurring? This is just a different way of working on it. So that's the big overarching idea. And this is actually going to be a 2-part class. So next week we're also going to work on this, which is also unusual for me.
I have a question.
Yes.
So is it like you progress to a thing and then you put a limitation on it, and then you sort of are done with that, and then you progress to the next thing and you put a limitation on that? Or is there some relationship between the limitations and the thing you progress to?
So the limitations themselves aren't the direct progression. The limitations are to get the person to adapt, again, within what they're already doing, to something new that has occurred. That might lead to the progression, but it's not, it doesn't have to.
Okay, so we're really just doing like perhaps 5 or 6 different things that we have never seen before, but for each of those we apply a limitation and try to adapt it. Is that what we're doing?
Not quite.
There's a thread, right? You want a thread between the very last thing that we did and whatever it is that we're going next.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the limitation is just there to make the person who's instructing have to rethink what they're doing. So the example would be Kay's. She wanted us to go off balance and then fall, to work on the feeling of being off balance and dizzy. So what happens? So the restriction I put on it is, what if their knees and hips are bad, which means I can't get to this position of off balance. How do you still create that within it and move forward?
Right.
With Kathy's, it just means, like, if you change, we're doing these roles. Now, how do you relate that to sword work? That seems like an interesting challenge to put on top of it. So that wound up leading to the next piece of throwing my core to do it, but it didn't have to. So right now we're throwing the core to move. And where do we go from there? And it can be anywhere you want, Andrew. It doesn't.
So I mean, the one idea that strikes me is using the core to strike in a different direction other than forward, changing direction, in other words.
Okay.
There's going to be ways that able-bodied people will do this, and then other ways, depending on the body part that you throw in, that doesn't work properly, we can adjust.
So right now we're going with the restrictions are removed. So you're just adding on to the previous class.
Yes. I mean, the restriction of last time is we had to go outward. Do I remember that correctly?
Right, so the one leg was bad and it couldn't come
Yeah.
straight up.
It couldn't come straight up.
Right. So now, assuming that I'm able-bodied and I don't want to just cut straight in front.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking of.
All right,
So-
you got 5 minutes.
I don't know if this is going to take me 5, but we'll see what we can do from here. So just as previous, Gary said, use your hips, throw the weight up to go forward. We can also throw our leg, foot weight off to one side first. Turn the hips, bring the feet together, cut. I have space limitations. I cannot do a full cut in my basement, so I cannot go overhead if I'm standing, just so you know. So I can go forward just as well. That's perfectly fine. If I want to go off to the side, that's great, but I'm still cutting in front of me. Throw my knee, whatever knee I'm using, left or right, throw it off to the direction I want to go. Even if I'm cutting behind me, go forward to turn and cut. So you got the 4 cardinal directions to work with. You have the 4 diagonal directions to work with if you wish. And you may want to go in one direction, even though your intention is to cut into the opposite. For example, if I want to cut to my lower right, that's basically my southeast on the compass dial. I may step northwest first, turn, and then cut. So it's almost like we're working opposites if we have to. And don't touch your ceiling or smash furniture pieces like I've already done this afternoon.
Then it's a regular class, so you can build on it however you like.
Sorry, say that again, Gary?
This is basically a regular class, so you can build on it however you like. You can let people ask questions if you want.
Yeah, I was actually just checking to see how people are doing. How are we doing with this?
Good.
Okay.
I'm struggling to get up.
In what way? When you say struggling to get up? Let me see.
Go into like another direction and then turn.
So if your intention here in this case, if I'm seeing that correctly, is to cut to your upper right?
Yeah.
Ultimately?
Yeah.
Okay. So because the direction's in front of you, you may not have to go behind you first to cut that way.
So it's only, I would do that probably if I'm going behind you.
That's my current thought. That's my current thought.
So if I go behind, I'm coming up here.
Yep. Yep. And what you could also do to make it easier, if you want, again, depending on your knees and that kind of thing. So if my intention is to cut behind me, okay, I'll step to the opposite direction. And then I can bring my feet together even just a little bit more because this might hurt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I was finding is I'm sort of tweaking my legs and knees.
Right. So I'm focusing on my lower body here for you. Maybe this might help. So again, my ultimate intention is to cut back to the southeast. All right. So I'm going to step to the northwest just a little bit. I can even bring my feet a little together. Turn and cut. Okay. So my point is, go easy on your knees. You don't have to send your feet so far apart and then turn when they're far apart. That's very difficult. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes. Yes. Excellent.
Makes it easier.
One of the things that Marcia can say has been challenging me on a lot is her big phrase is feet together then apart, not necessarily a full step. So many times she will bring their feet together as part of a ten-con step rather than step, turn, ten-con.
Right, because depending on the floor, you could really tweak your knees.
Depending on the floor, but also depending on your knees. This is much easier on the knees. Much easier and much more efficient. It's a much more efficient use of your movement rather than a full step, turn, and a ten-con. So it's just a matter of feet together and apart, feet together and apart. So she may change direction just by doing this. And this is almost the same idea that almost the same idea that I'm thinking of. So, yeah. So again, if I want to cut back here, I step here, feet together, and cut. It's not going to be the quickest way to do this, just one way to do this.
It also looks like when you do it more efficiently, you're working more on the front of the foot, the balls of your feet, rather than taking a big step with your heel first.
I don't want to say yes. What do you mean by working the balls of the feet?
So when you stepped, you are using the balls of your feet.
I'm doing that only because of the floor surface that I'm on. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Kathy, what you're saying is it looks like I'm up here on the balls of my feet. I'm not intending that. That's only because of the surface here in my home. So in other words, I'm kind of keeping my heels down and picking my toes up. But there's all sorts of different ways to do it. I've seen people move on the ball of their feet. I've seen people move on the heels. I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of that has to do with your physical limitations, the surface that you're working on, and how you choose to move.
Although I think that in general, rotating from the heels tends to catch less your knees than if you do from your toes.
Moving from the heels has been my preferred way to move because it's easier on my knees, yes.
Right.
I personally don't choose to move on the ball of my feet. Plus, most mat surfaces that I train on it's much harder on my knees if I move on the balls of my feet. So I will typically choose, this might not be the best angle, let me see if I can depict this. I'll typically choose to literally pick my toes up, putting my weight to the middle to the back of my foot, and then move. Does that make sense?
I like that better too.
I'm sorry, what?
I like that better too.
Yeah.
And I do the opposite.
The only key is, let me see if I can angle my camera for this a little bit better. When I pick my toes up, that doesn't mean that I'm moving my weight back onto my heels. I'm not trying to ride. I'm going to hugely exaggerate my upper body. I'm not trying to move my whole body. It's just move the toes. The rest of the body stays completely in the alignment that it was always in.
All right, now for the curveball. So you're now.
I don't know, man. It's 5:20. I think curveballs are done. I'm kidding. Yes, please.
Now teaching your feet to step up.
If your person has no feet.
What if you're a person who had roller skates for feet?
So you're now teaching a Systema-esque class. You've seen them.
See, and I'm already out. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So how do you adjust this so it is more Systema-ish, which is tends to be exercises, relaxation, etc.
Not coming from that world, that is a hell of a curveball.
Yep.
Are we speaking of with the bokken or without?
It's up to you. It is probably the idea of bringing your feet together and turning. That's what this turned into, right?
That's kind of where it's headed. It seems like it, yes.
So
Just thinking. Give me a moment.
Okay.
I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, but then it becomes a matter of moving your feet, 1 foot at a time, but both feet together. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So, whatever direction you want to go in, doesn't really matter. Move, feet, turn, different direction. And if you want to swing a bokken while doing this, that's even better. I wasn't doing that at that point, but you certainly can.
How are you turning?
Pardon?
Can you show me the turn?
Sure, sure. So in this example, I'm going to move to my northeast first. So foot, feet together. And when I turn, I'm just going to move both feet and cut. So still dealing with the same cardinal 8 directions.
So what's the difference between what you're doing now and what you did before?
I'm ensuring that my feet are together when I turn. How we doing, Kathy?
My
You
knee
okay?
is tired. My knee's tired.
Go slow. Go slow. No need to hurt your knees. And honestly, Kathy, if you'd rather do this from standing, do it from standing. If it hurts your knees at this point, don't start from seiza, please.
It doesn't hurt. It's just tired.
Okay.
All right. So now we'll move on to the next chunk, just so everybody's good. So we have Systema. We have moving so that your feet are together. It was from the ground up, right? Turn. Back. So we're going to go from standing. And we had the idea of throwing earlier. So I'm going to try and throw my leg forward and bring the other leg to it. So throws to place the leg, and then this turns and pulls the other leg forward. So the rest of my body can stay relaxed with it. And in this, we should also feel our loss of balance. We throw our leg, we lose our balance, we fall, we slow our descent, we throw our core out to do it all, and we end up landing on one hip or the other before. So we end up shifting our weight to one or the other. Right? This throws, we lose our balance, we fall, we catch it, our weight shifts to that hip, and then the core pulls everything back in. So again, everything then goes back together from everything we've been learning. And you can turn if you want, and do it again. And there's a little unbalance that occurs because we're working on that too. When you fall. And as you catch yourself, your weight shifts to that other the leg that catches, and your other leg comes in. The coming in is the same kind of flow that we were doing at the beginning. So our weight shifts, this throws but pulls that leg forward. Again, everything's tied to the throwing of the core. And afterward, the Systema, they would ask, what about where you're placing your foot? Because right now I'm throwing my foot and I'm placing it immediately. They would need you to throw your foot, place it, and then pull everything. The reason for that is you don't know what you're stepping on in the real world, right? So you need to test to make sure that that's safe, and then pull everything forward. Slightly harder motion. You need to throw the leg in a way that doesn't throw your weight with it. But that's probably what it would adapt to as the systemic class moved on. With the initial just doing, you throw, you fall, you recover.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when I throw this hip forward to move that foot forward, I'm assuming that my hip has to rotate again so that when it pulls forward, back foot comes up. Am I correct on this?
I'm not so much throwing the hip, I'm throwing the core. So the hip isn't, it moves a little bit, doesn't move a lot.
Okay.
And then this throws again, but to pull that way.
So
went basically that much.
So it's not a matter of the hip throwing the front foot out. And I'm exaggerating this huge, just so you can see it. So it's not a matter of this hip rotating to step forward. It's the core that's actually moving forward first. Then hips pull the back leg up.
Correct. Just like when I was throwing the core on the bottom, it wasn't my hip. It's the core that goes up through my arm to pull me up.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's
Thank you.
the core that goes out the leg.
Thank you. Yes. Appreciate it.
And it's not a slow push on, you throw it. Like a kick, like a hit, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the direction you throw it is up to you. So, the important part of this class wasn't the techniques we're doing, right? It wasn't the ideas that we were studying in those techniques. It's how do you adapt to the situation that's occurring right now? And it's not an easy thing to do. But again, you're taking your chemi. You should know what they're doing and what comes next by what you feel occurring. And then you add on to it or change it to get yourself in a better position. Same with being nage. They come in, you start to do something, you should be able to tell they've changed the script on you. And then how do you adapt to that new script immediately? And it's the same with instruction. And it might be something you've never done before, right? You're trying to do ETO and suddenly they're up on you in a way that you don't understand. So you might do a motion to take out the weight that you've never tried before. But you need to be able to adapt to it immediately. And that's kind of what this was about. How do you adapt and grow and work on what you have, what you've been given, and make something new? And that was basically it.
This adaptation today, Gary, was thrown at us in the terms within the framework of instruction, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. But the principles of the adaptation apply whether you're instructing, whether you're uke or nage, as you just described. Am I understanding the purpose then today?
Yes, it should apply to everything in life. Basically.
Right. Right. No matter what. Yeah, I get you.